most men never realize this until it's too late. The moment she starts feeling your absence is the moment she begins to understand your value, and by then, something inside her has already changed. If you want to understand what really happens inside a woman when she loses a man she took for granted, make sure you like the video and subscribe, because what I'm about to share is something most men never get to see, until they're already gone. Now, let me take you into a moment you've probably lived, but didn't fully understand. Imagine this. You're sitting with her, maybe at dinner, maybe in the car, maybe just texting late at night. Everything feels normal. She's still there, she still replies, she still smiles. But something subtle has already shifted. And here's where it gets strange. The shift didn't happen when you left, it happened long before that. You see, when a woman starts taking you for granted, it doesn't feel dramatic. There's no big fight, no clear warning sign. It feels comfortable, too comfortable. She assumes you'll stay. She assumes you'll tolerate. She assumes you won't change. And this is where men make the biggest mistake. They think the relationship is stable, when in reality, it's slowly becoming invisible. Because the more predictable you become, the less emotionally present you appear to her. But here's the part most people miss. She's not doing this consciously. She's not sitting there thinking, I'm going to lose him. No, her mind is doing something much more dangerous. It's adjusting to your presence as something permanent. And the human mind does not value what feels permanent. Think about that for a second. Think about the last time she didn't appreciate something you did. Not because it wasn't meaningful, but because she expected it. That expectation is the beginning of emotional blindness. And the scary part is, the more you give without resistance, the less she notices what she's receiving. Now here's where things become dangerous for the relationship. Because once a woman starts taking you for granted, she slowly stops feeling the emotional risk of losing you. And without risk, there's no urgency. Without urgency, there's no deep appreciation. But don't miss this, because what happens next is something almost no man is prepared for. She doesn't realize your value while you're there. She realizes it in your absence. And by the time that realization hits, it doesn't feel like clarity. It feels like loss. But before I explain why that loss hits her so deeply, you need to understand something about human behavior that changes everything. Because the pain she feels later is directly connected to what she ignored earlier. There's a psychological rule that quietly controls almost every relationship. People don't feel the value of something when they have it. They feel it when they're about to lose it, or after it's gone. But here's where it gets more intense. For a woman who took you for granted, that realization doesn't come gently. It hits in layers. Let me show you how it actually unfolds. At first, nothing happens. And this is the part that confuses most men. You pull back a little. You stop overgiving. You become less available. And instead of reacting emotionally, she seems fine, maybe even unaffected. But don't let that fool you. Because what's happening internally is very different. Her mind is trying to maintain the old reality, the one where you're still there no matter what. So she tells herself things like, he's just busy. He'll come back. This is temporary. And this is where most men panic and ruin everything. They see her calmness and they go back to chasing. They over-explain. They over-text. They try to fix something that hasn't fully broken yet. But here's the truth. The moment you interrupt the pattern she relied on, you create something she hasn't felt in a long time. Uncertainty. And uncertainty is where attraction and awareness begin to wake up again. But here's where it gets strange. She won't admit it, not yet, because her ego is still protecting her from feeling the loss. So instead, she might act slightly distant, or even a little colder. And this is the part men misunderstand the most. They think, she doesn't care. But in reality, she's starting to feel something she can't fully process yet. A subtle discomfort, a quiet question in the back of her mind. Why does this feel different? Now let me give you a scene you'll recognize instantly. Imagine you used to text her first every morning, every single day. And one day, You stop. At first, she doesn't say anything. She goes about her day, but then she checks her phone. Once. Twice. More than usual. And here's the key moment almost no one notices. She doesn't miss you first. She misses the pattern. But that's how it begins. Because patterns create emotional security, and when that pattern breaks, the mind starts searching for meaning. Now this is where things start shifting internally. She begins to replay your behavior, your consistency, your attention, the way you showed up without her asking. And suddenly, what felt normal before starts to feel rare. But don't miss this, because the real emotional impact hasn't even started yet. Right now, she's only experiencing confusion, not loss, not regret, just a disruption. And the scary part is, this is the exact moment where most men either win back their value or lose it completely. Because what you do next determines whether she fully feels your absence or returns to taking you for granted again. But before I tell you what separates those two outcomes, you need to understand the most painful stage she goes through. The stage where it finally hits her that you're not as replaceable as she thought. This is the stage almost no man sees coming. It's the moment when she finally notices your absence, not just the physical distance, but the emotional one. And here's the truth. Nothing hurts more than realizing she let something real slip through her fingers because she assumed it would always be there. Think about that. She didn't need a fight to feel this pain. She didn't need a dramatic moment. All it took was the quiet awareness that you're not responding like before. Now imagine this scenario. You used to pick up her calls instantly. You'd drop what you were doing for her. You were there, emotionally present, reliable, predictable. And then, something changed. Not dramatically, not even consciously on your part. Maybe you focused on your work, or your own life, or simply started setting boundaries. At first, she thinks it's temporary. He's busy, she tells herself. He'll come back. But then, small things start to register. She notices you don't text first. She notices you don't laugh at her jokes the way you used to. She notices the way your attention is no longer guaranteed. And here's where men completely misunderstand what's happening. She's not angry yet. She's not blaming herself. She's not even sad. She's noticing the void. And the scary part is, that void grows silently. She starts replaying moments in her head. The time you drove 3 hours to see her. The time you stayed late to help her with something trivial. The way you always remembered her small gestures. And the twist? She doesn't admit she misses these things, not out loud, not to herself. Instead, she starts to feel the subtle sting of absence. A quiet tension that keeps growing. A curiosity mixed with fear. What has changed? And this is where almost every man fails to see the opportunity, because right now, she's reflecting without realizing it. Her emotions are stirring, but she hasn't yet fully labeled them. She doesn't say, "I miss him." She feels it, yes, but more like an itch she can't scratch. And this is critical, because human psychology is clever. The moment she realizes she can't take you for granted anymore is also the moment she starts to feel the risk of loss. And risk is the trigger that awakens true appreciation. But here's the twist most men miss entirely. She won't rush to tell you she's realizing your value. She won't suddenly act differently overnight. Instead, she'll test it, subtly, carefully. Small cues, small attention checks, moments where she wonders if you still care. And here's the secret you need to see. Her realization doesn't just awaken regret, it awakens clarity. The kind of clarity that cuts deeper than any argument, any fight, or any complaint. But before I explain how that clarity turns into longing and why it feels almost unbearable for her, you need to understand the invisible line she crosses in her mind. The moment where taking you for granted becomes the biggest mistake she's ever made. That invisible line is where everything changes. It usually starts with a small, almost imperceptible moment. She's sitting alone, maybe scrolling through her phone, maybe thinking about her day. And suddenly, she remembers something you did for her. Not anything dramatic, just something small. The way you always remembered her favorite coffee. The way you listened, really listened, when she rambled about work. The little gestures she took for granted, because she assumed they would always be there. And here's the key. Her brain instantly compares that memory with the present. You're not doing those things now. You're not immediately available. You're not reacting the way you used to. And that gap, that absence, creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Her mind is screaming, "Wait! Why did I assume he would always be here? Why didn't I notice what I had?" And that's where the tension really begins. Now, most men think this is simple. She'll just get over it, or she'll act out. But the truth is far more subtle and far more powerful. She doesn't act out at first. She starts watching, observing, testing. Every interaction becomes a silent question. Is he still the same person I counted on? Does he really care about me? Am I at risk of losing him? And this is where the emotional pressure builds, without her even realizing it. Her mind is moving faster than her words. Her heart is feeling tension she can't explain. And the very thing she took for granted becomes something almost painful to ignore. Imagine a pattern you've probably experienced yourself. You used to always respond to her calls. You used to go out of your way to make her smile. And now, for whatever reason, you're distant. She doesn't confront you immediately. Instead, she starts noticing your absence in subtle ways. The quiet at night feels heavier. The texts feel emptier. The laughter feels forced. And here's the crucial part almost no man notices. She begins to miss not just you, but the version of herself she felt around you. Think about that for a second. The way she felt safe. The way she felt seen. The way she felt important. And the scary truth? When a woman reaches this stage, the pain of that realization is far deeper than any argument, any fight, or even any betrayal. Because it's no longer about you. It's about her losing the reflection of herself she experienced with you. But here's the twist that keeps most men watching this video. She doesn't act immediately. She doesn't confess. She doesn't text, call, or apologize. Instead, she waits. She waits to see if you'll come back to your pattern. She waits to see if you're replaceable. She waits to see if you truly notice what's happening. And this waiting, this uncertainty, is what makes her regret hit harder than anything else. Now, before I tell you how this regret evolves into a force that draws her back, you need to understand the subtle internal struggle she goes through next. The stage where every memory of you starts to feel like a quiet ache she can't ignore. This is where it becomes almost unbearable for her. She's past the confusion. She's past the subtle testing. Now she's fully aware of what she lost, or what she almost lost. And the interesting thing is, this awareness doesn't hit her all at once. It comes in fragments. A text notification she doesn't receive. A small disappointment she expected you to prevent. A memory of a time when you went out of your way, and she didn't even notice. Each fragment builds pressure inside her, quietly, relentlessly. And here's the part most men miss entirely. She doesn't just feel the absence of your presence. She feels the absence of the energy you brought to her life. The attention, the care, the emotional safety. The parts she assumed she could always rely on are suddenly gone. This is why men often hear things like, "She's acting distant, she's cold, she seems upset for no reason." It's not random. It's a reflection of her mind replaying everything she took for granted. Now, let me give you a real-life scene to make this crystal clear. Imagine she's sitting at home, scrolling through her messages. She sees a text from a friend, a joke, a story, something trivial. And in that moment, she realizes, I wish he was here to see this. I wish he cared like he used to. And suddenly, the clarity hits. But here's the crucial psychological twist. Clarity without action is painful. It doesn't feel like relief. It feels like a slow ache, a tension that keeps growing. And because she's a woman who once took you for granted, this pain is amplified. Why? Because she's realizing not only your value, but also the mistake of ignoring it. She starts to question every choice she made, every time she assumed you'd always be there, every time she overlooked the effort you put in. And the scary part? She may never tell you all of this, not directly, not immediately. Instead, she internalizes it. She lets it build. She lets it simmer. And this is the stage where men often misread the signs. They think she's over it. They think she's moved on. They think the relationship is stable. But the truth is, she's watching. She's waiting. She's calculating. Every small interaction now has meaning. Every word you say, every silence, every smile becomes a measure of whether you're still the man she underestimated. And here's the secret almost no one talks about. This tension, the quiet, unspoken tension, is exactly what drives her deep emotional realization. The moment she truly feels the weight of losing you, it's more intense than any argument, any jealousy, any fight ever could be. But before I tell you how this tension transforms into action and why some men never get the chance to see it fully, you need to understand the final stage of regret, the stage that will make her realize she can't take you for granted ever again. This is the final stage, the one that defines everything. By now, she's past confusion, subtle testing, and quiet regret. She's fully aware of what she lost. But here's the important distinction. Awareness alone isn't enough. What she feels now is something deeper, something almost unavoidable. It's longing. And this longing doesn't just come from missing your presence. It comes from missing the way you made her feel. Not the gestures, not the texts, not even the words. The emotion, the energy, the sense that someone truly valued her. That's what she misses. And here's the paradox most men don't understand. The more she realizes she took you for granted, the more intense her longing becomes. The deeper the regret, the stronger the emotional pull back toward you. But, and this is crucial, the outcome depends entirely on what you do next. If you return too quickly or overcompensate, if you act desperate or try to fix everything at once, she may sense it, and the moment loses its intensity. Because human psychology responds to contrast. It's the absence of something meaningful that creates emotional gravity, not the presence of frantic attention. On the other hand, if you remain grounded, consistent, and maintain your boundaries, if you let her realize your absence is real, you create something almost irresistible, emotional clarity. She sees you as the man she underestimated. She feels the full weight of what she took for granted, and she begins to appreciate not just the actions you did, but the kind of man you are. Now let me paint the scene clearly. She's alone, maybe scrolling through her phone. She pauses on a memory of you, something you did that she once brushed off. A wave of regret hits. Not just because she missed you, but because she sees your absence has changed the dynamic she counted on. She feels it physically, a pang in her chest, a tightening in her stomach. And that's when she starts imagining what life would be like if you were gone for good. And here's the truth that most men don't realize. That ache, that tension, that longing, it's more powerful than any argument, any fight, any emotional plea ever could be. It's not manipulation. It's not revenge. It's pure human psychology. She's feeling the natural consequences of taking someone truly valuable for granted. And the most important thing to understand, by the time she reaches this stage, she's no longer indifferent. She's alert, she's reflective, she's emotionally awakened. And that awakening is your opportunity. Your chance to either rebuild the connection on a higher level or let her realize fully the depth of what she lost. Because the truth is simple. Nothing hurts a woman more than losing the man she assumed would always be there. And nothing awakens her appreciation faster than the realization that he might not be there anymore. That's the psychological reality most men never see coming. But now, the real question isn't whether she feels it. It's whether you act in a way that honors the value you've always had. That's the difference between being taken for granted and being unforgettable.